Hello, good morning, everybody. Happy Independence Day in Nigeria. Well, don't blame us. It's the first time we're getting to see after the independence. Good to be here again. I am Chamberlain Oso, reporting live from Abuja.
And reporting live from Lagos, you just have to rub that in. The foremost capital city of Nigeria and the commercial capital of the country, I dare say. I'm Umahi. Good morning and welcome.
Yes, indeed. Happy Independence Day. Well, on the 3rd of October. Hope is on the horizon. Welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have hope in terms of, you know what they say about hope deferred and how it weakens the heart, even though, yeah, we know hope not necessarily a strategy, but you need a sprinkling of hope, even if not a huge dose of hope in circumstances and life if you need to move forward. But yeah, Nigeria at 62, so many reflections in terms, of course, we all know we're not where we need to be because we have huge aspirations, potentials, enormous potentials that the country has got. We need no reminder. There's no telling that we can, of course, do way better than we are doing at the moment. But all right, that said, let's see how the dailies even reflect what's going on, if they haven't moved on, if they're not looking ahead, because it's a kind of tricky Independence Day in the thick of campaigns for elections, so you can tell how the attention of Nigerians can be. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the dailies. So today, we might as well just go ahead and, I mean, if you look through almost all the dailies here, different scenarios for different dailies here this morning. Well, let me start with Daily Times today. So look at that. Strike. I know, they moved on, haven't they? FG warns ASU against disobeying court's order. Now, that is the big lead on the front page of the Daily Times here today. So now that's a tricky part of this entire scenario, how they handle all of this. Now, the thing is this. Can ASU be accused of disobeying court order if they don't get back to the classrooms when they have appealed the case? I think we'll have to hear from the experts, the professionals, the lawyers themselves. Let's see what they think about this. You know, that's why they always have different perspectives. So I think it will be out there for a lot of people to weigh in on. Well, that is the Daily Times this morning.
News Direct doesn't seem to have moved on because it is on its front page this morning celebrating the 62nd independence of Nigeria. In 62nd independence anniversary, Buhari to honor Oni, Elumelu, Ovia, Wigwe, 433 others. Only oil-served Nest Oil CEOs bag national honors. All of that you'll find packed on the front page of the paper. And still on Nigeria 62, entrepreneurship, industrial hubs key to a beautiful Nigeria. Sounds like music to the ears. I'll leave it at that for the Nigerian News Direct. So many others to celebrate for you right there.
From the Nigerian News Direct, we'll take Vanguard newspaper this morning, and it leads with, you know, something relating to independence, and it's captioned this way, the big story now. Nigeria at 62, we're in war situation. That's attributed to Adeboye, PFN. The writers provide more insight, says it'll continue until people turn to God. Insecurity pervasive in Nigeria. Okay, PFN president. Nigeria not yet at war, but, well, if you're interested in getting all of those details to provide a fuller picture of what they're trying to say, you'll have to turn to page 5 inside Vanguard newspapers for more details. Well, there are some other stories. Let's go above the nameplates now to see this one. Strike. Respect court order. Resume work. FG tells ASU. And lastly, this is a sad one from Indonesia. 174 die in Indonesian football disaster. That's a page 30 read from Vanguard newspaper.
newspaper next. That is the next one we've got for you here today. So you see, after Abuja parley with Atiku, Wike, Makinde, Otom, Ibeazu, Ugwanyi meet, weigh options. So they are going political this morning, the front page of Leadership newspaper here today. But the writer here says, fail to reach agreement to hold more consultations after Enugu closed-door meeting. And then you see at Leadership Twitter Spaces, Wike's scam says it's being vindicated by 151 million naira returned by PDP NWC members. So that is the big focus for them right there. But yeah, you could also see soldiers of Nigerian military school, Zaria, on parade to mark the 62nd Independence Day celebration. As the paper captions that image you see on the front page of Leadership today.
The Nigerian Tribune has exactly the same story, but of course its own twist to it is different, as the lead of the paper is right there. Wike, Makinde, 3 others meet in Enugu, consider options, and a host of writers are right there. But look at that picture. What does it tell you? It tells the story of a flood right there at Lokoja. That's what you have there on the front page. Flooded road in Lokoja, Kogi State. But right under that one, you have another story that talks about flood sacks Edo communities, displaces over 100 people. Most certainly a governance issue we must not take our eyes away from.
And from there, let's take a very quick look at Daily Trust newspapers, and hope may be on the horizon if you consider the headline. Abductions dip by 28% in August as troops scale up operations. Yeah, indeed. And the riders go this way. Borno, Kaduna lead as 859 Nigerians killed. That's not cheery. 262 local government areas in 36 states affected. Killings rise by 49% from July. What government needs to do, that's attributed to security experts. That would definitely make an interesting read this morning, and you'll find all those details on page 6, I believe, page 4 rather, of Daily Trust newspaper. And let's take a look at some more stories as we review Daily Trust. Tambua, that's beneath, well, before that, this one is equally important. Flood kills 37, displaces 171,000 in Adamawa. You find that on page 28. And lastly, from Daily Trust, Tambua stops salaries of striking varsity lecturers. That's a page 5 read. Well, it appears there's no end in sight to the continuing action by university lecturers. Chamberlain?
Well, what can one say on that one? But take a look at the Guardian newspaper. Their focus is also entirely different. 3 trillion naira stranded, overtime cargoes rot at Lagos on their ports. I mean, a country that we talk about paucity of funds. Can we afford this? So, and then you see the riders. NCS yet to auction over 8,000 containers after 3 years. Scraps occupy 25% of port spaces. And then Customs says, we are awaiting government gazette to auction cargoes, deploy scanners. You wonder why, what on earth we're waiting for. Hoodlums take over ports, frustrate legitimate businesses. Government warehouse facilities run out of capacity. Nigeria losing imported cargoes to Lome. So when we keep talking about paucity of funds, how we're squeezed on every side financially, how they intend to raise more funds locally, how about us focusing on plugging the leakages? Let the relevant agencies do the right things, and in good time. Time is money and time is spent. So if we don't fix these kind of things, and we keep talking about how we're losing funds, it just sounds awkward. So look at that, 3 trillion naira. Oh boy, that is a lot. Well, that as a matter of fact, that is the main focus of Guardian here. They just want to highlight how important that really is here. So that is a New Telegraph, I beg your pardon, the Guardian newspaper this morning. So we might as well go ahead and take the next one, which is the New Telegraph.
Well, the New Telegraph is also on the front page. Commissioner CCB chair blocking probe of alleged 109 billion naira AGF loot. That's what you have on its front page this morning. Accuse him of sitting on pensions to appear before Senate committee on Thursday. Story is on page 3 of the paper this morning. Of course, the ASU strike story is on the front page, where FG is warning ASU against disobedience of court order on resumption. That and several other stories you'll find on the front page of the paper this morning. Pick your choose or choose your pick.
Speaking of choices, you may want to go with this Nigerian newspaper this morning because it leads in a different vein from the others, but it's still with politics. And this is how the big story is captioned. 2023 presidential campaign. Obi, Tinubu, Atiku take battle to US. The riders go this way. Supporters converge in New York on Independence Day to canvass votes for their candidates. And then you'll find the big picture there. It captures the rally, I believe the one at the Lekki Tollgate axis in Lagos. And the headline on the big picture reads thus: at Obedient Rally, a sea of heads. Of course, there's been a lot of talk about the obedience rally. Besides the one reported from the US, there's also the one from London, and the pictures were all over the internet just yesterday. Well, that's it for the big story. Let's go just beside the nameplate to see this one by Serap. Recommit to transparency, declare your assets. Serap urges Buhari. And that's a page 6 read. And of course, it's timely as we approach the 2023 elections and the end of this administration. So it will be interesting to have political office holders declare their assets, not just the president now.
Well, not just an
political office
announcement.
holders.
I don't think just an announcement will do. What does the law say about the process or procedure of it? Yeah. When should it happen? Well, his tenure, the president's tenure, and those who were elected about the same time, the tenure doesn't end until May 29 next year. So perhaps is it okay to say they still have sufficient time? So maybe this is just a heads up, from Serap
speaking
about
of time, perhaps there isn't enough time. It's okay that the call comes now, so that between now and the end of their tenure, we can scrutinize whatever their assets, have become over time.
What the law says will also be germane.
We'll find out.
All right, take a look at Daily Independent, guys. That is the next one here, and this almost hits at the heart of so many things. Businesses, households panic as new interest rates regime begins. So you're going to have to grapple with a lot of things as a result of this one. Analysts see restrained spending, investment, stock market valuation. So all in the equation when it talks about interest rates. And we've always had this challenging interest rate regime, as it were, but this is what we're going to have to grapple with now. And then you also see at the bottom strip, commissioners allege CCB chairman blocking probe of corruption cases, say he blocked investigation into 109 billion naira linked to AGF Idris. Wow. So, wow, just wow. But of course, this is not something we can afford to gloss over. This is, this borders on 109 billion naira corruption case linked to AGF Idris. Of course, naturally, there should be a lot more focus on this, and so that the right things are done. Well, that is Daily Independence this morning, which ends a look at some of the front pages here today. Hey, we welcome your comments today. Oh, by the way, I know it's a holiday, isn't it? Happy holiday to everyone out there. But just go ahead and send us a comment or two of whatever may have transpired over the weekend, issues that you happen to hear, you like to highlight, because we will be here for you. But just sit back, relax. We'll be back with you in just a moment and take you through what we've got for you after this break.
Supporters of the Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi make good their vow to hold the biggest rallies in various parts of the country to show their support for the candidate. They converge on various places, dancing, chanting songs, waving flags and banners with different inscriptions to show solidarity to the man they think is fit to lead the country from 2023. In Lagos, members of the Obidati movement kick off their walk from Admiralty Junction, moving through major roads in Lekki.
We are obedient to Nigeria. We are obedient to Peter Obi. Come 2023, we all have our PVCs. Peter Obi will be elected the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the good of Nigeria.
Next, they move towards Jakonde, Elegushi axis in an apparent move to avoid any confrontation with the police already stationed at the Lekki toll gates. In another part of Lagos, Festac Town in Amuwo-Odofin local government area, the LP supporters are out in their numbers. After over 5 hours of work through major roads, the supporters converge on Apple Junction, chanting solidarity songs in support of the Labour Party presidential candidate.
We are supporting a better Nigeria, a new Nigeria, and Peter Obi is the hope of every youth. We are here for a change. We just want to liberate Nigeria. We have suffered enough. We want to take our Nigeria back.
Aba, the commercial center of Abia State, is a rallying point for supporters of the Obidati movement in the state. The obedients in Benin City are not left out in the Solidarity March as they walk the streets in support of the candidate.
Obi. Obi.
And in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, it's a massive turnout of Obidati supporters. Up north in Kaduna, the Obidati supporters also come out in their large numbers. The rally, according to the conveners, is to garner more support for the presidential candidate ahead of next year's general elections.
Well, Let's just have a conversation around that with Mr. Alo Kennedy, who is Lagos State Coordinator, Take Back Niger and Obedient Movement, and he's also head 1st October 4 million March Committee, Lagos. Lagos Coordinator, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Speak generally, first of all. We've had such spontaneous reaction from Nigerians a few times in our history. I remember, well, in '93 it was like that for the MKO at the time. June 12, the January 2012, that was also spontaneous, and a number of maybe one or two others like that. This is like the first time we're witnessing this kind of spontaneous reaction from people, almost unsolicited by the party involved. Or are they paid crowd as well?
Absolutely, you're correct.
They're paid?
No. Who paid who?
I'm just asking.
No, come on.
When you said absolutely.
No, I mean the spontaneous reaction of the people. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. You see, people have gone to a point of Rubicon, point of no return, when we are in school, that's what they say. What you see on October 1st is expression of people's feeling that enough of what is going on. They are tired of the bad governance. They're tired of everything that is going on in Nigeria, the standard of living, their education, their hospital. Nothing absolutely is supposed to be working the way it's supposed to work. Then we said, since the people we elected are not doing it, let's start from the grassroots and mobilize people to say enough is enough. So that since we have somebody we believe on that is giving us the highest hope that we have never seen in the history of this country, then we say it's time for us to tell him, come and be with us and salvage the situation. What you see on October 1st is the expression. People just wanted to burst out what they are feeling about the system. Enough is enough. They are tired, and they wanted to take the country back to themselves.
You spoke about starting from the grassroots, and that speaks to the local governance systems, then the state government before we get to the federal. But it seems that the attention of a huge number of the people in this, campaigns, parades and all of that, is more for the presidency and not for the local government level.
We started this movement about a couple of months ago, when our principal is still at another party. I don't want to mention their name. So we are telling the people at those parties to give us this man to lead us in this country because we believe in what he's saying. And before then, we have started strategizing. It's something we started on a small scale with few people. Then our convenience, we started adding people in the platform. We started building up and building up. We get to a point, we say, okay, it's now for us to showcase the people what we can do. We have, as I'm talking to you now, we have like from local government coordinators to ward coordinators to polling unit coordinators. This is something average person that's not a politician will never ever do in his life or her life. So for the fact that we wanted to take the whole bunch back to ourselves, we started to study the system. How do this thing work? Immediately we understand how it works, we started building our capacity around the platform and around the structure. So when people always say the man in question don't have a structure, we keep smiling because at the back end, we're already building exactly what they were expecting.
That's not the question. The question is, you talked about us starting from the local levels.
Yes.
And the local government system is the lowest level, the closest level of government to
Absolutely.
the people. That's the question that I'm asking about. Because the focus is on the presidency and not on the local government level, chairman, councillors, and all of those things. You said it, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, sure. We started from the presidency, and now we have a very vibrant governorship that will be in place in the next few months to be in Lagos, whatever Vivo. Then we have the House of Representatives, the senators, and the local ones. But what we are concentrating now is the presidency and the governorship. That's the people we have clearer picture who they are and what we wanted to do. This is not like a party. It's not a political party. It's a movement. For the fact that our principal is in a party now, which means automatically all of us get ourselves aligned with the Labour Party. So whatever we are doing for our principal is absolutely doing the same thing, like we are Labour, but the most important thing, quote and unquote, we are movement. So he cannot call us a political party, but we'll be aligning with a political party our principal is on, and we'll be working for them.
You don't consider the importance of the popular support base for your candidate, your presidential candidate, at the National Assembly level too, should in case he wins, you know, because the concern is that the concentration, as Aya said, is on the presidential election, and that the Labour Party is not necessarily fielding as many candidates as it should in the National Assembly elections.
I think what happened to Labour Party is like a hurricane. They never expected this kind of surge. They have been there, but we are not like active people per se. Our principal have said before now that when he used to be the governor, he's the only one on the platform. No person from the House of Assembly, no councillor, nothing. But he walked. By the time the man goes up there, which we believe will be the next president of this country, I believe every other person will align with exactly the ideas he has on the table. Because the most important thing about this is for the country to move forward. Nobody in this country now will say this country is doing the way it's supposed to be doing. I don't think anybody will say that. Now, when we have somebody that wants to sacrifice himself, that man have reached the apex in his life, from a chairman of a bank, from a governor, from a lot of things. So it's not that we handled him and say, you must lead us to the promised land, which we believe that he's going to do. But Labour has other candidatures, representatives, senators, House of, and other things. But in the meanwhile, what we are considering now is our principal and the governorship, especially in Lagos, because we are in Lagos. I'm talking about Lagos State because I'm the coordinator of Lagos State. I believe we are spread out in the whole Nigeria. We have in all the states. We have in the states coordinators. We have local government coordinators. We have ward coordinators. So probably what people don't understand is that we have been doing this work before now, and the people on the grassroots level have aligned with us. They are the people that are doing the work. If we can have a polling unit coordinator, it means that we are actually rooted.
Speaking of which, you know, I asked earlier if they're not paid, you know, participants at the rally. So if they're not paid, I'd like you to elaborate more on how you have been able to mobilize the mass people, you know, that we see at the obedience rally.
You know, October 1st evening, I can consider myself as one of the happiest person. After like 4 or 5 days sleepless nights when the rally is coming closer, you know, this is, you know, the worst organization or the worst planning it can do is when you are doing something with no budget, no money, and you keep expecting it will come. And the other individuals that see what we are doing always keep giving out what they can. Let me get it to you that the ambulances, the truck, and many other things that we use there are given to us by association of some doctors for P2B, lawyers for P2B, transporters for P2B. We have, because the rally was organized by a coalition of different people, Likes Mine, TBN, P2B Network, you know, different types of people. People will just form a group because they wanted to support this man, this ideal man that we are longing for to be the president. So all the T-shirts you see people wearing there, 80% we are shared free. But people capitalize on the platform, maybe came from somewhere, maybe they started selling whatever they do. The water we share there is given to us free. Almost 90% of most of the things we use for this rally is actually given out by the people. You know, you see, people get to a point in people's life, they say, come on, why can't we follow this young man and get this country back? Because nobody can give what he doesn't believe in. If our governors and leaders can go out for medical checkup or could take their children outside for school, it means that they don't believe in education here and they don't believe in hospital here. I could remember about 2 years ago, one of the ex-governors built a massive hospital somewhere at the South. But the little incident occurred to him at Abuja, if you remember, he was freed out. But he spent billions in that hospital somewhere at the South. He used to be the governor before he became somebody else now, a senator or a minister. I don't want to mention his name. So what we are concentrating is for people to understand our idea. Whatever we are doing is for us to get back the country to start working. And when a country is working, I believe everything will take in shape.
Okay. Now, one of the concerns naturally is if these participants at this rally will actually vote, if these numbers will convert to votes. Historically, you know this very well, the highest percentage of voter population that we have had, since the Fourth Republic began, is 30% of the voters. Now we have about 96 or thereabout million voters on INEC register, the highest we've ever had. No matter how high the numbers rose, it would seem the percentage of voters dropped, 20-something and all of that. So the question then is, will the numbers at these rallies all over the nation, especially beginning in Lagos where you are, will it convert to votes?
Absolutely. Let me get to you. When this ideal man they called Mr. P2B, His Excellency, came on board, it surprises everybody. Immediately there is INEC continuous registration. There is a surge in INEC places, unlike before. So which means if you can take that pain to go and do your registration, you will still take the same pain to collect your voter's card, which they have started doing. In each of the platforms nationwide, we have been sensitizing people to go and collect their platform. We help you. If you don't remember where it is, we have to make you understand how you can get to your local government and collect your platform, your PVC.
You mean Labour Party is brokering that intervention for its supporters, helping them collect their voters' card?
Yes, the movement is actually making people, that's the importance of collecting those PVC.
Answer the question that she asked. Are you helping them to collect their voter cards?
No. Making the process easy.
You have to sensitize people to make them to understand how they must go and collect their voter's card. I don't think INEC give third-party card to anybody. Okay. I think it's criminal because...
No, not collect on their behalf, but, aiding the process, making it easy for them to collect.
The only thing we are doing is sensitizing people to go and collect their voter's card.
Do you think it is difficult for people to get the voter card?
You see, before now, do you remember before now, when people, if there is an election, you see people playing football, doing different things all together because they're not interested. But now they feel that, okay, let's try this one. Since other dynamics have been, we are used to failure. People are saying, how do you know this one is going to work? I said, but the ones that we have been doing before, it's not working. So the system is used to failure, and they will believe that this one will work.
At the end of the day, Mr. Peter Obi is a politician. And politicians have made promises to people all through the ages. Yeah. So, and people have been disappointed over and over again by politicians. Now, what's the confidence people will have that even if we vote this man, we will not get the same treatment as every politician has given us over time?
If you look at the man's pedigree, he left 70 billion somewhere when he was the governor. Nothing stopped him from writing it out as security vote. It's never done in this history of this country. Nothing stopped that man to write it off.
But he's not the only governor that has left savings in the
That's
in the,
70
in the
billion, sir. We are talking about.
He's not the only one that has done that in this country.
He has done so much that people believe that this is an ideal man that we have to look up to deliver this country. People have checked his antecedents, where he's coming from a private sector, how successful he has been. He has been in a lot of public sector, and nobody has ever faulted him on certain things. So
let me quickly get in this one. Do you believe, or are you concerned that the obedience are seemingly going with the tide and not interrogating your principle as they should? Speaking of which, he has had to interact with the leads at the business level. He has had to interact with the members of the, judiciary, at the MBA conference. But is there a need? Do you see the need for an interaction with the people, the locals, at the township level, such that they can ask critical questions about how he hopes to deliver the dividends of democracy that he has so promised in many fora.
Yes, we have actually organized a lot of township, forum for about 3 or 4, and he promised to come for other ones. We have been asking him critical questions. Why should we believe you? He dropped everything on the table to say, by the time you check A, B, C, D, tell me why you should not believe me.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll wait. As we have heard politicians say over and over again, well, it's only time that will tell.
Absolutely.
We have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation this morning. Alo Kennedy is Lagos State Coordinator, Take Back Niger Obedient Movement. He's also the head of the first October 4 Million March Committee. Those who wonder whether they are up to 4 million. But that's not a question for today. Thank you so much for your time.
We have a mammoth crowd there.
Well, mammoth and 4 million are two different words. Well, we'll be right back after now to take on more. Please stay with us. Ahead of the 2023 elections, let's discuss what we all need to know about the 2022 Electoral Act and things that need to be done by the politicians, the political parties, you, the citizen, and the electoral umpire, INEC. Please, in no particular order. And as you've seen, Mike Igini joins us this morning. He is a former INEC resident electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom State. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me and my very good friend. Of course, good morning, Nigerians, and happy independence.
It feels a little strange to call you former right now.
Say what?
It feels a little strange to call you former INEC resident electoral commissioner.
Having been rec for so many years. Congratulations on your retirement, by the way.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Igini.
And also an opportunity to thank Channels Television, our chairman, John Momo, and the entire crew for the privilege of having the channels cover the farewell ceremony at Akwa Ibom, and including your sister station, AIT, and Arise Television. I'm very grateful to all of you. No greater honor will a station like Channel accord the people of Akwa Ibom State for what we did collectively together. So thank you.
We're newsmen, so we cover the news.
Sure.
But, you began earlier, I mean, just before we came on air, saying Nigeria on the march again. And I said to you, the last time I really heard that resonate was in 1993.
Yes.
Any similarities between then and now?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, indeed. What gives spice and piquancy to the practice of democracy? So when you see the people showing interest, enthusiasm to be part of the process. Because if you look at the chapter 2 of the Constitution, the fundamental objectives and directive principle of state policy, section 14(2)(a), it says clearly that power belongs to the people, and that sovereignty belongs to the people through which legitimate power is derived. So you know that every election, a citizen will donate, surrender part of his sovereignty to a body of persons to administer public affairs. Now, when you now have a new election, that becomes an opportunity for the citizen to exercise what you call their residual sovereignty, to make a choice who becomes what. What is interesting here, having regard to the kind of apathy in 2011, 30-something%, 2015, 30%, 2011 was 39%, 2015 was 39%, 2019 was 28% voters turnout. So when you look at the enthusiasm as reflected in the INEC register before we left the system, you cannot but say that what we are seeing happening now is something close, or rather June 12th is something getting close to what we are having now, because the number of registrations that the Commission has put out before we left the system is quite enormous.
No,
that means that truly like Ghanaians did some times ago, that with our votes, we change the history of Ghana. That was how they started in Ghana. I can see something like that happening, and more so, the numbers of candidates that have emerged across board.
Well, it's not the first time really we're having all of these numbers and all of that. And as you rightly said, the average percentage of voters we've had since 1999 has been 30%, sometimes more, sometimes less, and all of that. But you spoke to Powers the other time. Historically, people have believed that, you know, any time the election is coming, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has enormous powers across board, including over the electoral umpire. But then there's an indication in section 160 of the Constitution that talks about the fact that INEC has so much powers that the president cannot control it. Enforcing that's a challenge, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, that speaks to the position of the place of the rule of law in our practice democracy. You see, democracy is often qualified with the expression, the rule of law. The Athenians, they gave us the word democracy. They didn't give us a model. It is the Western world that brought the concept of the rule of law. And the rule of law is very key. And at the heart of our problem in our country is the absence of rule of law in all the things that we do. We now have a country where some people feel that they are above the law. And without the rule of law, adherence to the rule of law, electoral contests will be nothing but a crude contest in the deployment of force. So the place of the rule of law is very important. Now this country is preparing, in the next 4 months, we are going for elections. As the former commissioner of INEC, having spent 10 years in the service of the fatherland, I want to make it very clear that I still remain, as a private person, I must maintain that disposition as an umpire. My contribution in the next few days, few weeks, and months of the election is to join Nigerians to explain specific provision of the 2023 Act. There are one or two I will never mention. I will never mention. Because those provisions, they act as a shield to the process and also as a sword against those who want to undermine the process. It is when we get to the point of the Philippi that we will mention those ones. But what I can say...
So are you going to lead the process to invoke that aspect of the electoral law, should in case it's abused by those that you're talking about?
Yes.
In order to bring them to accountability.
What we can do with respect to that provision, which I will never mention. People can go and find it out.
It's not that it's hidden.
It's not hidden. It is there. But don't forget that this electoral act, and we must give commendation to the National Assembly and the President for signing this and putting it in place. Because right now, I can tell you, what people are faced with right now, there are people who are regretting, who feel that the 2022 Electoral Act is possible to roll it back, it should be rolled back. INEC innovation should be rolled back. But regrettably, you cannot abort a pregnancy that has been delivered. This is where we are. Now, the current act that you have, well, a combination of the efforts from Jega's time, where we've been making proposals that the system has been very reluctant to approve. And that's why we give the current National Assembly that they have a place in history for doing what they have done. That's making some of us very happy, making Nigeria, all of you smiling right now. And by the time we go to the nitty-gritty, you will see that power is reborn in Nigerian people.
You haven't answered.
We are return power to you.
Are you going
I am asking that. I'm coming to that. But just to give you a background to that, and why I don't want to mention it, is that the current act has 9 parts, a total of 153 provisions. The commission, following all the various proposals put together, sent to the National Assembly over 91 proposals. The National Assembly graciously accepted over 48. This 48 provision, including the one I will not mention, that is there, acting as a shield and as a sword, all right, are one of the provisions to safeguard the vote of the Nigerian people. So what I want to do is that, oh, I've heard about, oh, you are retired and so on and so forth. No, a young man like me, who have not spent 35 years in the service of the fatherland, only 10 years, or having not attained the age of 60 and far, far below the age of 60, you cannot be talking about retirement when we have
obviously you don't want to answer Bukola's question yet.
So the question is,
let's
question
yes.
As to that provision, all I want to say about the provision is that
will you be leading the charge to enforce it?
Oh, sure.
That's the question.
Oh, okay. That is the education we are going to give.
Okay, so
that's what we are going to be involved in right now.
So as a member of the civil society, after the 2023 elections, sure. Are you going to be leading the charge to invoke it, to bring those who abuse it to account?
First and foremost.
Yes or no?
No, first and foremost, that provision is going to be integrated in INEC training. INEC know what I'm talking about here. All right? But what you should know, we should avoid information overload. But what the people should know, election riggers who are thinking of trying to rig election, let me just tell you, you can't do anything. That provision, if you think that you are a supporter of a candidate, or you are a candidate, either House of Assembly, House of Rep, Senatorial, Governorship, or Presidential, and you think that in your domain, you are in control, you can do anything, unfortunate for you, you are going to lose your election.
Let's talk about the ones.
So that provision is so beautiful.
Let's talk about the provisions you can talk about.
Yes,
or
right.
You want to talk about.
Sure.
At this point. So what are some of these ones that we don't know or that we've been ignorant about? We mentioned Section 160, for instance.
Yes. But first and foremost, I mean, just to take off from where you started, and is that the success of any election around the world is a multi-stakeholder responsibility. As you will see from what I call the election day pyramid. The duty of INEC, judiciary, security, political parties, candidates, citizens, media, and civil society. But of all these key stakeholders, three are very, very key, which are the umpire itself, that will be on the driver's seat, then the judiciary, and of course, security. The trinity of these three agencies of states will take Nigeria to a different level when it comes to the issue of elections. But as a starting point, we all have a duty to obey the provision of the Constitution, which is at the heart of our problem, the Electoral Act, regulations, and guidelines of INEC.
You mentioned the electoral pyramid on the screen now.
Yes.
Speak to it, Chris.
That is the election pyramid. Now, what this pyramid shows to you is that in the final analysis, like previous elections, the outcome of 2023 election will be a reflection of our collective values of who we are. Because if you look at the top, the first three lines you see there, the INEC headquarters in Abuja, they prepared, which is what they are doing right now, making arrangements for the elections. Thereafter, all the materials will be taken to the state. That is at the level of the REC. Then from the REC, you go to the local government. That is at the level of what we call the EO. From the red column down, you find out that it is Nigerians who are not members of INEC that are going to be involved from these stages of SPO, of course, barring the new regime, to have INEC staff to be in charge of that sensitive position of what they call the SPO, supervising presiding officer, who are going to hand over the ballot paper and the result sheet to the presiding officer.
Is that a new provision in the law, the supervisory presiding?
No, it has already been there.
Okay.
It has already been there. So you find out that the entire pyramid, that majority of the people, 99% of people who will administer this election are Nigerians who are not actually INEC. How many people do we have in INEC? For example, in Akwa Ibom, we have just about 500 and something staff. But to conduct the election, we deploy 20,048. So the outcome of election, whether good or bad, is a reflection of our collective value. That is what that pyramid speaks about.
When you go further down on the pyramid, you
Yes.
find registration area collation officers,
Correct.
local government collation returning
Correct.
officers, state collation returning officers.
Correct.
I'd like you to provide a bit more clarification on this aspect. The reason I ask is this: why is the collation officer or center, as the case may be, still relevant if we now have electronic transmission of results? I would imagine that from the polling unit, when votes have been counted, collated, that then onward is transmission uploading into the INEC portal. So why do we still have this state collation officers?
Thank you. Very good question. The starting point in answering your question, and for Nigerians, is that whatever you hear about, whatever that has been, people have talked about, some of which we addressed today, like the Conference United, I was outside the country, political parties.
CUPP,
yeah. CUPP, all right? All of those issues that have been addressed, which we are going to speak to quickly here, is that Nigerians don't be worried at all. The 2022 Electoral Act has made the polling unit the center of universe. And so what is being done is speaking to the question you asked. For the accreditation process, we are doing what we call bimodal. INEC now do what we call bimodal accreditation process. The collation of results is also bimodal. It's a dual system.
Okay.
By virtue of Section 60 of the 2022 Electoral Act, a presiding officer at the end of the poll is expected to record on the form EC8A the scores of political parties. He or she will sign, stamp, party agent, countersign. All right? Then thereafter announce the scores. Then upload to the cloud. The Act use the word transfer. People also say transmission. What the INEC does is to upload to the cloud. Now, when you upload to the cloud, all right, straight to the IREV, people can view it, can see it. Then the duplicate will be given. I am a presiding officer. At the end of the poll, I will give you the party agent a duplicate of the form EC8 original. I will give you a duplicate. I will from 60E, the people's from EC8 will be pasted. And that's why Nigerians should not be worried about some of the things we hear about. The hope is reborn in you. You will decide who becomes what anywhere. Now, once that is done, in answering that layers and all that, and that will speak to us an issue that was raised about hacking. Now, one interesting thing you must know there is this. Today, any one of you where you are, you listen to me watching this, take your your phone. Try and send an SMS. Put your phone on airplane mode. If you send it, what it is sent, it will not be able to deliver. But you cannot retrieve it. The moment you remove it from airplane mode, it will be delivered without even recourse to you. That is what INEC does. So who is going to use the ladder? Going to climb. But I don't want to, let me just take a train of thought to get to the point she's making.
Yes.
Now, once it's been uploaded, in line with Section 60, now the presiding officer is expected to carry the original. This is the second leg. That's why it's a dual process. He must carry the original or the form EC8A. Now, let's revert the role again. You are now the work collation officer.
Okay.
You are the local government collation officer. I am the presiding officer. Interestingly, unlike in previous years, which is the reason why some people are already going to court to want to stop the beavers, all right, where before I come to you, you have to be waiting for me. You will know what has happened here. Now, Ayo, as the work collation officer, he doesn't have to speak to me. He would have seen the result because he has access to see the result already. without talking to me. Woe betide not me now. Any corrupt person who is now coming to you with a result contrary to what he has seen. He doesn't need to talk to you. You don't need to talk to him. You don't need to talk to me. The fact that you know that, the fact that I know that you have seen the result, that is the greatest deterrent that we have to. So before I get to him, the result will be snatched, it will be uttered, or when they get to the work relation center, the party agent of political party will be chased away. That's where they will now do the mutilation. Right now, the polling unit is nice. So when you get to the work relation officer, that's the question you are asking another. It's the second leg. Now, section 64, you can put it out there for Nigerians to see that power has been returned to you. That's why there's border panic in the land. There's panic in the land. People want to roll back the 2022 Electoral Act. The National Assembly will not do so. It will be contrary to public policy. So the point here is that...
So this is section 64.
64.
Yeah.
Subsection 4. Now, you could read it up there. Once you get... you are now the work relation officer. Before you collate, you must ensure that the number of accredited voters on the result sheet presented to you must be consistent, must not be at variance with what has been recorded at the polling unit and has been transmitted or uploaded. It must be the same. That is section 64, subsection 4. Nigeria can read it there. Now, every stage of the process is now accountable. Why I commend the National Assembly for what they have done is that all these things the procedure we are talking about, they have been there for a long time. We've been piloting them, but they have not been secured by the law. This is where we are.
Okay. Well, there are a number of other issues to raise. Yeah. Let's see how much of it we can take within the next 10, 15 minutes that we have more after this break. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Well, Bukola, you have a question.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ayo. I'd like you to react to the concerns raised by the CUPP in Imo State, particularly about a compromised INEC register where you have strange names not peculiar to that region and irregularity in gender.
Well, thank you very much. I was outside the country when that conference was granted. First, I think that the statement issued by the commission was a very good one. It was not dismissive, but to explain to Nigerians. And for people like us who have worked in the system and those who are in the system, we know that nothing will come out of those plans. But we commend the vigilance of the group for saying that. Now, what we need to know here is this. As we speak, there are people who are very, very uncomfortable with the 2022 Electoral Acts. And also with the innovations of INEC. Because you see, we innovate, we reform. But there have not been a reform of the behavior of the members of the political class to complement the reforms of INEC. This is the challenge we are facing now. With respect to issues about register, as rightly explained by the commission, INEC has advanced to a level where, for example, the current registration that ended before I left office, they were done by INEC staff. And it must be done on your personal ID. Any registration that is irregular is traceable. In fact, I give you an example from Akwa Ibom. There was wrong registration at Okanafon. The commission didn't talk to me first. From the back end, in the 36 states of the Federation, they monitor everything. We are not talking about, these are not you coppers, INEC staff. So, once they saw what was going on, Abuja immediately stopped that process from the back end, and my attention was called to it. You recall that the registration of 2021, when INEC was through with the advanced automatic biometric identification system. Almost half of that was gone. Remember, before the Anambra election, well over 70,000 ineligible registration and multiple registration were weeded out because the system INEC has now took account of the entire taxing state. So the issue raised, all those names, you can generate names even from outside Nigeria. But can you generate the biometric?
You say INEC's explanation is satisfactory, but
yes.
Really shouldn't, in addressing it, shouldn't INEC have told the world how those names got there in the first place, not say that they're still reconciling with the bimodal accreditation system? That doesn't address it.
Yes. You see, I can say this here, that in every system, I mean, you could put out something there. There's a director, almost the rank of a director in 2019, who had pictures. And I've sent it to you people, you can put it out there. Pictures. Like you went to a photographer shop and got pictures and all that. They try to do things like that.
Okay.
What is important is the capacity of the system to detect. And the reason why people now want to go to court to remove beavers is to return us to manual process.
Well,
we cannot go back to manual process.
We could go. There
So
a couple
INEC
of
will detect that,
yeah,
and it has done that across the country.
Too many questions to ask, but because, the issue of the beavers is something that, and I hope this is what Chamberlain is trying to speak to now. Chamberlain?
Well, Mr. Igini, there are some CSOs who have some concern about the voter register. So, leveraging on Section 19 of the 2022 Electoral Act and some of the issues that have been raised previously. Now, some of them ask that, because we have some officials of INEC, even though it's behind the scenes, think that it will be difficult to meet the request of the CSOs who are asking for an electronic version of the voter register. Is it against the law? Is it out of place for INEC to make that possible, either publishing it on their website or some sort of electronic communication to have that version so people can equally access it, since we're talking about beavers now?
Chamberlain, I think that same Section 19 that you reference also made it clear that when INEC shall have completed the process of the cleanup by integrating the ongoing last phase of registration to what we had before, all right, the register will be made available to political parties. All right? That is what the law has also provided. And of course, our partners, but before that, I think what is even more important is that under Section 19, the preliminary voter register will be pasted in all the wards for objections and claims. That's why the CUPP press conference, actually comes here, because the system is designed in a partnership way that the cities have a role to play. The purpose of printing and putting in the wards local government is for the people in that area to identify by way of objecting to names that they would have seen there, all right, who are not supposed to be part of that community. That's the essence. It is after that objection that the register will be printed and will be made available to all political parties. And I think that at that time, even the CSO will also be there available. And of course, it's there that you must have it in electronic format. It's under Section 19.
Okay, well, I'm assuming, right now that, because part of the question that I believe that Chamberlain asked was, look, can the register be available electronically for the voter themselves to see?
Yes.
Of course. I mean, look at Section 19. You can look at it. There's a provision for that
because
there.
What you said,
but what is
posted, it will be posted on the wall and all, but there is no way people can access it to see, to view the...
No. You see, when you see the Electoral Act is designed in such a way that it's in an inclusive system. It takes all those of you who have access to internet, you can use your telephone to do that. The majority of Nigerians who are in the rural areas don't have access to that. And that's why the law requires that those copies should be printed at the polling at the wards.
We get that, and that's been the standard over the years. So the question is, can it be available electronically for people to view as well? Well, you said that there are a number of people in the rural areas, and that is correct.
Yes.
But there are at least 140 million connected lines in this country. So people, that's a sizable number of people who can view this electronically.
That cannot be a problem because it's given
but is it
PDF format.
Is it available now?
You know, right now, I am out of the system. There are questions that the system can answer.
Okay.
But by practice and procedure.
But can you answer this, Mr. Igini, leveraging on section 19 also? He said, shall not later than 90 days to a general election appoint a period of 7 days during which a copy of the voters' register for each local government, area council or ward shall be displayed or published. 90 days... appoint a period of 7 days. Clarify what that means. But then again, isn't that time frame rather too short? For instance, if the civil society or the people themselves have concerns to raise about the register for which INEC needs to address, a 90-day time frame is short.
No, the 90 days is for the register. Not less than 90 days, not exactly 90 days. For the register to be ready to begin political party preparatory for election. But the section we refer to is to address concerns raised by the CUPP, which is being a standard procedure. That once you've done registration, you have to go and produce. That's why INEC was talking about having to close to enable, to account for this timeline that are statutory to be observed. That within this period, all right, people should go to their wards to check. That is what is being done.
That same section 19, as you can see on the screen now, says people should be able to view it on INEC's official website or any website established.
So, for instance...
Of course, it will be there. I said so.
But the question is it available now?
No, right now, I know that the process of the ABIS is ongoing. If you recall the press release I read when I was out in the country, was to the effect that even the area that the CU people refer to, over 3,000, which is an ongoing process, have been removed.
So, for instance, there were many concerns like that of the CUPP in like 10 states of the Federation, and INEC is releasing it in December, just 90 days to the election. The time frame is short to address those concerns.
No, the 90 days too. The 90 is a different thing altogether. Is INEC, once they are done with the ABIS, all right, it is the time for the purpose of this exercise is different from that timeline for people to see. It's a different time.
Okay. Well, again, there are too many questions to ask you, but as I said earlier, we're completely out of time because there are those who are still saying, look, yeah, you talked about beavers, or showing election is something that gives us an example. Someone needs to take a third party needs to take a second look at beavers to assure us that we will not have the same experience we've had before where the elections were stopped because of one reason or the other. But we can't address all of that now. We have to thank you very much for being a part of our conversation this morning. Mike Igini is a former INEC resident electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom State. Thank you again for your time. We hope to have you back real soon to continue this education.
Thank you.
Well, there is more after this short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, as you've seen there, we're joined now by His Excellency David Umahi, who is Governor of Ebonyi State. He's Chairman, Southeast Governors Forum. He's also the Regional Coordinator South for the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Good morning, Your Excellency. Thank you for joining us on the program here today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good to see you again.
Thank you. Same here. Well, over time, I mean, just a couple of days ago, the Court of Appeal ruled in your favor concerning the senatorial seat. But, I mean, we know how the build-up went, and but at the moment, there are those who just still have this impression that you use strong-arm tactics to get that ticket. Yes, you will be happy that you got it, but you think that they have a point when they say, you just use your strong-arm tactics to get the ticket?
Well, Chamberlain, there's nothing like that. You know, for Nigerians, even if you dance on top of water, they will say you're raising dust. The matter is very clear, very, very clear, as clear as a very bright sunny day. There was first primary election in Ebonyi State in which my younger brother participated with my sister Anna Gomez. And she got 2 votes. My brother got 283 votes. She protested about the outcome of the election. And then the party said, okay, if you are not happy with the election is cancelled on the 7th of June. That election took place on 24th of May. And the candidate of the party by reason of that primary election, was Mr. Umahi. But his name was not yet submitted to INEC. And so when he withdrew,
all right, well, just lost it for a bit, but not to worry. We'll sort that out. It's just trying to clarify on that. So we'll get that connection back on with the governor of Ebonyi State in just a moment. And yeah, so that is being worked on right now. So we're just talking about the process that led to his emergence as the senatorial candidate in Ebonyi State, or talking about the fact that he used strong-arm tactics to get the ticket. Of course, you know that there will be those who will be emotionally attached to what transpired. They thought, oh, why didn't you just give the candidate a chance? But we'll get all of that sorted in just a moment, and we will be back. All right, welcome back. Apologies for that break in transmission. So, Your Excellency, you're speaking about your emergence and responding to those who thought that you strong-armed your way to getting the tickets.
Yeah. So I said there wasn't anything like that. The matter is the election of 24th of May of APC Senatorial South election. We drew on 9th. And the party wrote, to INEC to reconduct, in line with the new electoral act. And the election took place. And I was the sole candidate for that, so aspirant for that election. And I won the election. And so the INEC did not publish my name. And so by the 24th, which is just a day, for the time I had to lodge complaints on 24th of June. How come you've not published my name? But they were going to publish my name, which they have just done now, based on that primary election. But then we had to go to court. So it's when we were in court, we went to court on 24th of June, and Anna Gomez, she came second in the first primary, and if she felt that she has a stake, in the primary election, when INEC did not publish the name of my brother, she would have gone to court if she still had interest. But incidentally, the same 9th of June, she withdrew to contest any election, in the APC, for 2023 general election. And she submitted that, to the party at the national headquarters before the legal advisor of the party, before the national organizing secretary. And the person that collected her letter of withdrawal, she withdrew from further context, which would have been available to her. So there isn't anything like that. So when they went to lower court, I don't know what happened at the lower court, because our lawyers, tendered the fact that she's joining the case late. Section 285, subsection 9, said notwithstanding anything in this, constitution, that every pre-election matters must commence within 14 days upon which the action took place. So there were three avenues for Anne to have, addressed her grievances. One is when INEC did not publish the name of the winner, she would have gone to court. She did not. When I went to primary election to contest, she did not. So by right, she's not supposed to even join that case because she did not participate in the 9th of June election, which I emerged. So there's nothing like that. And you have to know that the appeal court, Supreme Court, they are not respecter of anybody. What will you give to them? So they just simply said, look, the election that I had on the 9th of June stays because Anne joined the suit, 24 days, instead of 14 days. So that's simple, it's very clear. So there's nothing like, I don't even know any of the Court of Appeal judges.
But the thing now is, Your Excellency, at the moment, you are the governor. The buck stops at your table when it has to do with matters concerning Ebonyi State. Now, if you become a senator, you will be among equals. So it will be a different matter entirely. So you won't have executive powers, as it were, to take those kind of decisions that you can take now. So for you, in terms of making an impact, is it about just staying in the political circles? What kind of impact do you hope to make? Because many will think you've made a lot of impact in the state, so why be a senator? You won't have the same kind of effect as a senator and as a governor.
Well, there are levels of commitment in the country, and we have our different destinies and callings. I think my job and my callings, at the state level, we terminate by May 29th, 2023. But the brain is still there, the calling is still there, the wisdom is still there. Don't forget that I had contested the presidential primary of APC. What that meant was that I was going to play at the national level. And so being a senator, and with my experience and the gift of God, it is to play at the national level. And for the state level, I've always advised leaders that, power, transition in power is like that. When it comes, you must have to, accept it with humility. Not when you have left a stage, you still pretend to still be a leader. So I'm still the leader of the state, but when I become a senator, the governor will become the leader of the state. I will have all my respect, and the cooperation. And
speaking about the state, at the moment, there are those who think that it's not going to be a stroll in the park for your party. In fact, some PDP members the other day did say categorically that APC in Ebonyi State will not stand a chance because they say Ebonyi State is a PDP state, that when you move to the party, the structure, as they say, didn't go with you, and you're almost like alone in Ebonyi APC, and the structure is still in the PDP in the state. I know you say you're optimistic that the state can win, but aren't there valid points when they say, look, historically, it's always been the PDP in Ebonyi, and it will be next time out, they say?
Every state is built around the performances of the governor. I have performed, and it's not about the party, it's about the leadership of the state. But let me inform you and assure you that there is no PDP in Ebonyi State. And you've witnessed a number of our programs of late. You've seen the number of people that came out. And so the PDP should not even talk. They are not even second in ranking in Ebonyi State. So there's nothing like structure, you compare the achievement of PDP, my administration in the last 8 years, and compare it with the administration of PDP in 16 years in Ebonyi State, and you tell me whether the performance is about the party or it's about the leadership.
Well, at the moment, you built a university in the state, which you then handed over to the federal government. Building that suggests, it comes across as though you do understand the importance and value of education. But then it's ironical that in the country, students are home. The government has not been able to resolve the conflict between themselves and ASU. So one wonders, are you able to reconcile your values for education to that of the federal government?
You see, Chamberlain, in this country, everything is turning into politics. When you say things as it should be, people will begin to, abuse you. The fact remains that it is not difficult for federal government to enter into, the kind of agreement that ASU wants. After all, they will be exiting in about 8 months now. And so it will be taking the problem to the next administration. But, responsive leadership wouldn't want to do that. Mr. President Buhari wants to be honest, even while quitting office. So I think that there is every need for ASU to listen. I listened to the Speaker of the House of Rep, his erudite, contribution and submission. Say, look, this is what you're asking. And of course, I said, ASU is right. Even my brother and good friend Wiki also said it. ASU are 100% right, But there is no way the federal government can cough out the whole money now. So let us agree that you start with this. And again, the management of funds in the universities are another thing altogether. There must be a system to check transparency, in the use of funds in the universities. It is one thing to, say, give us this, but how do we manage the resources? It's very important. So I think that ASU, should a kind of shift ground. Federal government should shift ground. Let the students go back to school. And then we can have a kind of mediatory, committee. Let ASU bring some people. Let stakeholders bring some people. Let federal government bring some people. And then we look at the economy. Everybody is in party with ASU, but we are more in sympathy with the students. Look at 7 whole months, the students are at home. So this is so sad. I'm in sympathy with the students. I'm in sympathy with government. I'm in sympathy with ASU schools immediately.
But much as it's difficult for people to still understand why government cannot come to an agreement with them, many also have seen the approach. So would you advise government to perhaps, in a way, to demonstrate good faith, withdraw the case from the court? Well, the court already ruled anyways. So if government were to call them to see how they can settle out of court, as opposed to forcing or using narratives as to you'll be violating the court order. So those kind of languages, it comes across as though government is trying to bully ASU into going back to schools without addressing the issues. Because when the president says he's appealing to them to get back to school without speaking to what needs to be done on the government part, it doesn't just add up.
I feel that government is so frustrated. And when you even see some reasonable opposition parties, like Governor Wike speaking to, the matter and advising ASU to go back, take whatever the federal government has given to you. But I think that the major, aspect of this is the issue of, the months that they didn't go to work. They want to be paid. I remain to be corrected. But I saw what the Association of the Vice Chancellors of State Universities, I saw their position. I hope I read the correct thing. And where they emphasize that the no work, no pay is a must, and they must be implemented. So, but even at that, my position is the case in court is not an issue. It's not an issue at all. The issue of paying for the months not worked for is also not an issue. But as a former businessman, I should also emphasize that before you go on strike, you have to get prepared. You have to make sacrifices because, results are achieved by making sacrifices. So you can't be insisting that you must be paid for the 7 months you didn't work. Otherwise, at every flimsy excuse you must go on strike. After all, you lose nothing. And so who are the people losing? The parents and the students. So I think that we have to agree on the modalities. The case in court is not an issue. And I think it's out of frustration on the side of federal, because everybody is bullying the federal government. Only very few that are patriotic can understand and say, look, let's reach a middle ground. And I opt for a middle ground that the case in court has no meaning. And I think that they went to court out of frustration.
Because, I mean, ASU has maintained that if the government insists on no work, no pay rule, that they hope the government knows the implication of that. It will mean that all the backlog, whatever it is that they, it means the students will automatically lose a year. Is that what the government wants?
This is not is neither here nor there. It's a kind of subtle blackmail, if I should say so. Because if you know that a course that will take 3, terms could be done in 1 term, why did you put it into 3 terms in the first place? The brain has a capacity. At a certain level, the brain can no longer take anything. So you want to muzzle these students, to engulf in them, courses that are supposed to take 7 months. You want them to do it for 1 month. That is misplaced. I think there is a need for us to also reconsider that position and find a way to assuage the feelings of the student, their positions in this matter. So that's my position.
All right, you have lofty dreams for King David University, and one then wonders, haven't seen the way institutions or academic institutions run by government end up, or how they are at the moment. They just cannot understand, why did you hand it over to the federal government? Because at the end of the day, it just may become like one of those that we've seen where nobody really wants to go.
Well, I understand that implication, but greater implication is leaving that size of university for the state to run. It will just practically impossible because the exposure may not be there. The federal government has a wider reach. But what we are doing in this university is a bit different from other universities. We are in agreement with NUC, we are in agreement with Federal Ministry of Finance, Education, Health. We are sourcing, most of our, very highly, developed sections. Like the cancer center is being outsourced, the kidney transplant is being outsourced, the dialyzer production plant is being outsourced, the artificial belt, is being outsourced. The eye center is being outsourced, so that even if there is a strike, it will not affect them. Another program that we are going to have is also to engage some consultants and exchange programs. And we are trying to enshrine in our constitution that when there is strike, the state government will come in, to see how they can assist, so that that institution will not be shut, down. It's something that really the government and the people need to sit down and think about. This issue of strike is becoming, very, very funny. And again, we must have accountability in our universities, in our secondary schools. And every governor will tell you what is passing through. Sometimes levies are imposed on students without the knowledge of the governor. But who is being called is the governor. So the attention of this country must once be shifted from the leadership, to the people. We must all combine efforts to redeem our country. It's not all about, leadership. Every governor can tell you his experiences running the states. So there should be accountability. The fees being collected in schools, the ICT money, the all kinds of fees. They say there is no school fees, at the federal, universities, but the students are paying quite a lot of money, comparable to what the state schools are paying. Where are those monies going to? There should be accountability.
Well, Your Excellency, I mean, haven't searched and searched many, for those who couldn't understand, and then they just wonder, did you hand over that university to the government so that in case the AFCC wants to look into it, they can go and arrest government because it's now government-owned, controlled by the federal government?
What do they want to look into? I don't know what they want to look into. If they want to look into it, they are free to look into it. I don't know what they're looking into. That university that we built will take the federal government 10 times the cost. So they have to place it side by side with any of the federal universities and see the cost. The cost building that university is so ridiculous. But it was built on the platform of the fear of God and the love for the people. So who is afraid of EFCC?
How much did it cost, by the way?
We need to put things together. It's quite, interesting question. But, I can tell you that one of those structures, the structures you see very big as it is, did not cost me up to 4 billion to build. You can't beat it. You can't beat any of my project costs. You can't. You can't just beat it. You can't beat the quality. You can't beat the stability. You can't beat, the look. If I'm a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, I'm a registered, I'm a fellow, and so I've reached the zenith of my engineering practice, and I'm very much exposed in terms of financial management, and you can see from the ratings of the states in terms of project implementation, in terms of coming first in financial management, and I remain the only governor that is the ambassador of, transparency by the ICPC. So we have no problems about costs in Ebonyi State, and that's why we've achieved the much we've achieved.
Okay, even though you said you'll give us the figures, you look into it and give us the figures in a bit, even though we thought that, well, since you finished it, you're proud of what you did, you should have the figures at your fingertips. But moving into politics, okay, go ahead.
I'm still working. I'm still working because the agreement is that, I still have to manage university till December 31st. I'm still paying the salaries. I'm still building the dialyzer factory. I'm still building cafeteria. I'm still completing, a number of projects, So I've not stopped building. So by the time I finish, by the end of November, that's my commitment. You will have a final figure, and you will be marveling. Did it happen in Ebonyi State?
Okay, so what is the sub figure at the moment? At least you know what you've spent so far.
You see, the social media is so funny. If I put a figure now and it's not consistent with the reality, I'll be wrongly quoted. So let's leave that until, I finish in November, and I will appear before you again, and you hear the figure, and I want the figure, to be the template, for other projects of similar nature in this country.
All right. So moving into politics proper now, we've seen the Labour Party hold their rallies all over the place. Well, the PDP also, the presidential candidate was in Adamawa the other day, being received and going about his functions. Where is the APC's candidate? What's happening to the PCC?
We have, how many months to election and how many months for, campaign. The first to start does not translate to, first to finish. So the APC, is a bank, and they are coming up with their programs, and it will soon happen. So not to worry at all, not to worry at all.
When you say a bank, it sends a different, huge meaning. Say, oh dear, are we expecting some bullion vans to be in operation during the campaign process when you say APC is a bank?
In terms of mass mobilization, in terms of acceptability.
Okay, but yesterday, there was a tweet from the presidential flag bearer of your party about him on the bike. But the thing then is, why is the party busy showing us proof of life when he should be out there telling the people why he claims it is his turn to vie for this seat?
Let me tell you something, Chamberlain. Nobody is totally well and nobody is totally sick. This is one point. Another point is that Nigerians are so petty. Some of us are so petty. A man that is doing his workout, is being videoed and circulated in the social media without his knowledge. And so a man that has life does not need to show any proof of life. Asiwaju has life and he doesn't need to show any proof of life. And you can see that. So I think we should, concentrate on tangibles, because life is like being in a bus and you don't know where the next bus stop is. Some of the people talking about the health of leaders of the country do not even know where their own bus stop is coming. So we should, rely on tangibles. Every life and death, rests in the hands of God. That's the way I look at it.
All right, my colleagues, I've got questions for you.
I was wondering, when His Excellency says, that it was being videoed without his knowledge, one could clearly see that your candidate was looking into the camera So is that without his knowledge? He was looking into the camera. Can you hear me, Your Excellency? Well, hello. Okay, I guess we'll have him back shortly because I'm pretty sure that he's.
Let's try him. Your Excellency, the question they were trying to put across to you is that you say that he was being videoed without his knowledge, but that he was looking categorically into the camera, so that cannot be without his knowledge.
You see, that's you know, so we are so you know, petty in some of that. If you come to a room where there is you know, a camera, maybe at a corner of you know, the ceiling, any direction you look, you know, we pose as if you are looking towards the, you know, camera within the circumference of the coverage of that camera. That is the truth about it, and you can ask the experts.
So at the moment, in terms of the composition of the Presidential Campaign Council, it's all well now because there's been several late-night meetings. There's been rebuttals about controlling the party. And we also do hear that there's been an appointment of the Yobe State governor to try and go ahead and network and, you know, reconcile aggrieved members of the party. So it does appear there are some challenges internally within the party so far.
Well, I don't look at it as any challenges. You know, this presidential campaign committee just, you know, a mere recognition, you know, of the importance of stakeholders in the entire affair. It doesn't translate to, you know, a major contribution in terms of winning an election. Every politics at the local level. So for me, the formidable presidential campaign, you know, is at the state, you know, level. And that's where it's supposed to be, and that's where it will be. And so it is just, you know, a race for, you know, national recognition. Because these people are not going to be in Abuja. We are not going to be in Abuja. You know, I'm going to be in my state. I'm my state coordinator, apart from being the Southern, you know, region coordinator. But the most important thing is my state. How do I win my state, you know, for the party? So all those efforts for massive recognition of our leaders, you know, will be achieved. And we roll out, and you will see the acceptability of APC.
Governor, one of the things that is going to most certainly be an election issue is something you talked about earlier, education, ASU. And so there are those who would be wondering if the government of APC, the current government, couldn't resolve the issue of ASU strikes that's been perennial over the years, even before this government came into office. Because the Minister of Education said it was his hope that he'd be able to put an end to ASU strikes altogether. And this issue is at the heart of what concerns young people the most. So if the APC has not been able to deal with that issue decisively until this moment, what's the assurance that the next APC government will?
Well, if I heard you very well, because I hear Chamberlain better. Chamberlain, we're having a echo. But if I heard you, you know, at all, you know, I want to say that the APC government, you know, led by Mr. President Buhari, is being honest and sincere. Because what ASU is saying is, look, this is we had agreement, you know, under Jonathan, you know, and that agreement was to spread, you know, for 6 years. It was paid for 1 year and it stopped. And so, meaning that that administration made, you know, an agreement that they were not going to implement and left it for the next administration. And that's what Buhari doesn't want to do. He wants to be honest and sincere. And sometimes you're honest and sincere and the people take it for weakness. It's not, you know. So I think that, you know, what the federal government is offering, you know, for the sake of our young children is something that, you know, is on the platform of honesty, because they don't want to, you know, set an impossible agenda for the next administration. And this is very important. But I still believe that the federal government can shift ground they, as a father, a very responsible father for that matter, they can still shift ground. But on the issue of no work, no pay, it's a very delicate issue. It's something that should be discussed behind said, because we shouldn't encourage that kind of situation. We should, reach an amicable settlement that people should not even be aware of. Only the ASU leadership and the federal government should be aware, And then it is, my people used to say that if you agree that the basket belongs to me, you can carry it, But let there be an agreement and say, look, even if we are going to meet you halfway in terms of no work, no pay, but let it not continue, because this is our country.
At the moment, different sectors in this country have lost some very valuable hands, human capital, as a result of the state of the economy. Several families have been hit, their pockets are taking a hit. Many have got to pay a lot more taxes. Security challenges for so many people hitting deep on their businesses. Even government revenue is dwindling. So naturally, one would ask, yes, they're all out there campaigning, but haven't seen how the APC has fared in the last 7 years. Why do you think anyone should want to vote APC again?
Thank you very much. You see, we always make this mistake of, judging the failure and the success of the government on the national government. We have the sub-national government, the states, we have the local government, But let me start with the fact that we have global economic meltdown. In Europe, I was just coming from London, it is a very difficult place to live now. The economic situation is in a very serious, problem, I also attended UNGA, and I see the way the economy of America is going. And so there is a global economic problem. Since we came in 2015, it's been quite a very big challenge. The only aspect of our economy that I do not know why it's not been fixed by the successful government is the issue of refineries, because this refineries has a lot to do with our economy. It has a lot to do with the dwindling, fortunes of the naira. A lot of money is shipped outside to buy petrol, And so I was among the 6 governors interfacing with NMPC and the Federal Ministry of Finance. And my position has been, why is it that we can't locate refinery, in each of the geopolitical zones? In Kaduna, we already have one, even if it means to truck the crude to these locations to refine. And also the modular refinery we are talking about, we've argued and said the byproduct is not enough because they are, run-down products, like, other byproducts that will be lost. But even at that, we should be able to start. So this refinery thing is one of the major problems we have in our economy. Because if you look at Russia, the only economy that is doing very well in the world now is, the economy of Russia. Why? They say if you are buying our petrol, you have to buy it with our currency. Before the war started, the currency of US to the currency of Russia was 1 to 83, but today is 1 to 53. Whereas other currencies are going down, only Russia is going because of the economic planning. So I think that we have to fix this issue of refinery importation. It doesn't make sense. We are selling crude oil, and then we are buying petrol and we are buying AGO. It doesn't make sense at all. But when it also comes to the economy of Nigeria, I have to say this, that federal government, yes, takes 52% of the federation, fund, and the state government and local government take about 48, so to say, Now, of course, less, the derivations and some other, deductions. But the question remains, we should be judged in our respective states, whether we are PDP, we are ABGA, we are APC, what have we done with the resources that are accrued to our states? So you can't judge the federal government alone and you leave out the states, because the failures of the states, is being also attributed to the failure of the federal government. So we should be able to examine what the federal government, they have done with their 52 in terms of payment of salaries, in terms of, funding security, and so on and so forth. So that's the way Nigeria should be looking at it. You can't just blanket and say the federal government has failed in terms of economic indices. we have to also look at what the states have done with their own funds.
Well, Your Excellency, just as we wind down on this, assuming without considering that were the case, many will then ask, okay, if we're to go by that, the APC has way more states than the PDP. So they still take the chunk of the blame because largely, if all those APC states have done as well, we may not be feeling the pinch in the economy in the country.
Well, I've not said that the governors have done well, they have not done well, but you should be able to examine the state by state and see what they have done. Because even those who have done nothing are the people that are crying, worst, that federal government has not done anything. But we should ask ourselves, what have we also done? So we hide under this pretext of federal government has failed, and then we escape being judged by our citizens, what we have done with our own, resources. So if out of, in an examination, there is 48. So let us say that 48%, has succeeded and 52% has not succeeded without even admitting that, So we should be able to have a balanced assessment of what has happened. And if you look at the federal government in terms of what they have done, you look at the rail, you look at the second Niger Bridge, which has turned from promises to realities. You look at a number of things that the president has done. And I keep saying that I have benefited as a state, as a PC, state, more than the state benefited in PDP, leadership in 16 years. And this is a fact.
All right.
Just a few days back, we had a major problem in the community of the Minister of State for Health, and the road became impassable because of landslide. I appealed to Mr. President, and within 48 hours, help came. And we are working to assist the people right now. So there are a lot that the federal government has done for me, as a state. And let me say that my state comes first. And all the political parties must be able to tell, including APC. APC must tell me what the state will benefit by voting for them. We will not vote for anybody blindly without a firm promise of what we are going to get, because we've been relegated to the background in the past and we are not ready to go through it again. If you like, be my senior brother or junior brother, we must know as a state, Ebony, what we are going to benefit in definite terms before we vote for you.
All right, so that may resonate. So it doesn't matter what political party, what will the people offer? If they cannot improve your economy, don't vote them. Well, we hear you, Your Excellency, and we thank you very much indeed for your time here today. Dave Umahi is the Governor of Ebonyi State, Chairman, Southeast Governors Forum, and also the Regional Coordinator for the South in APC's Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you again for your time here today.
Kimberly, thank you very much, and God bless you.
All right, let's take a look at some comments that came through from you. I've got this first one talking about preparations for 2023 elections. Henry says the preparations towards guaranteeing the fidelity of the 2023 elections should be holistic, as the legislative and administrative interventions are being made and fine-tuned. The citizens need the reassurances that the judiciary that is fast losing their areas as the last hope of the oppressed and distressed will not drop the ball. Thank you, Henry.
Well, so many other messages that came in. We acknowledge Jamil Jogazi and Henry Okeke, as well as Yomi Williams. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time. We have to thank you very much for being a part of the program this morning.
We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Have a happy holiday.
I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful day.
Indeed, I'm Bukola Samuel Wemimo. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.